Good afternoon, colleagues, and thank you for being here. And it is great to be having our colleague Azza, Ahmed. I'm not going to call the other names.
Okay, fine.
Babikir. But who is going to be speaking to us about her work? Azza was one of our first postdoctoral fellows when we initiated the Human Carnegie Initiative, which was really at that time entitled Future Hospitals. We were really trying to explore artificial intelligence and think through with technology through Africa and what it means to think with technology through Africa, and particularly ethics. And Azza's work, which also started at within the context of COVID-19. First, focus was on East Africa, particularly on Rwanda. It's good to find that there's someone else who actually has access. Succeeded. And because of the difficulties and challenges, had to move the project to Ghana. But which is also part of the project and the difficulties of collaboration, and especially in doing artificial intelligence and also introducing medicine or medication. Azza came to us from the Bayreuth International Graduate School of African Studies in Germany, a place that's very special for her. And she also has worked and also trained partly in Sudan, one in Khartoum, in particular part of one of the places where she wanted to return to before the war broke out, just when she was about to get back to take up her position in Khartoum. But the work that she has also done after that is with the SDG fellowship funded by the DDC for research and internationalization at UCT with a whole group of colleagues, but her passion or area where she's really done work is around urban anthropology and also sociology, and she's got a very beautiful work centered around the bridge, which we are waiting for to be published, but which, if you have the opportunity, I recommend that you read, because it's also sociology of life, statehoods, and also how people, how infrastructure also shapes and defines space. So we are looking forward to Azza's talk today, which is also part of the project within the Carnegie AI, and we are grateful to Carnegie for their continuous support and also the SDG fellowship.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Divine, and thank you everyone here for being at the seminar. Like as Divine said, this is a long-term engagement. As you know, I shifted from different positions, but it's still like kind of the engagement that's anchoring me at HUMA. Actually, when we talk about artificial intelligence, about the ethics of care in Africa, and just to think about, like in my case, just to think about science, technology, and innovation. What does it mean from Africa? This, as Divine said, it was supposed to be a project that has to be done in the first initial plan was to be in Rwanda, but unfortunately, like for many reasons, one of them is permits. To get research permits in Rwanda, it's not an easy exercise. And during COVID, I had to also do this research thing online. Like I have to apply for it online. And I think it was at that time, it was just, they just had the website, and it's just, you know, like buffering, and there's a lot of problems, and I send, and my proposal doesn't fit their, you know, like the doesn't fit their format. So it comes back again, and it's back and forth. I paid money, they took my money, they didn't refund me. So it was a lot of hassles. And then I sat with Divine and said, okay, who are the most welcoming people in Africa, where we can, you know, like at least, you know, like feel welcomed, and don't give us that hustle and hurdles. And then Divine suggested, okay, why don't we try Ghana, you know? And yes, and that was how yes, this is how I directed my work to Ghana. And of course, it was a completely different experience in terms of, I mean, people welcoming and everything, but also in terms of research, access was, in my case, I would say access was very easy. You can easily get permits. You can easily, you know, like talk to people. People are willing to talk to you, willing to, you know, to engage with you, and also interested in your work. And I think that's very important when it comes to finding channels, you know, for discussion, and kind of bringing people together, because that's what, as we progress in my talk, that's what's important, you know, to find common grounds where we can, with different fields, come together and, you know, and negotiate science, negotiate technology, and also talk about how we contribute all to innovation in Africa. So the way it happened, actually, I decided to start with looking at AI startups, because I was interested in the question of like deployment of AI technologies in Africa. So I started with, okay, let me start with a AI startup, and then from there I will see where it takes me, you know, because it was like really like a black box for me. I didn't know exactly what to do, and it was a very short time. So I said, okay, let me just throw myself there and see how things go. And I started to stalk CEOs on LinkedIn. And then I came across the Mino Health AI Labs, which is, I mean, I'll talk about it soon. And it was very easy to communicate. I think this is also the way now how to approach, you know, like people, you know. So it was very easy to communicate with the CEO and actually welcome the idea, and probably because it was part of the hype, you know, like they also want to be like on the surface, you know, they want that visibility. So they do welcome any kind of discussion, any kind of collaboration, or any, just, you know, coming as a researcher and writing about them is something that they welcome, you know. So that was really easy for me, and that gave me the access. And after that, of course, I started prepared for the field work, and then I went there to Ghana and to meet them. And yeah, and that's how that's how I came to know about the technologies they are producing, at which stage of the technology they are working on, and what kind of issues they are facing when they're doing, you know, producing AI technologies. And what caught my attention really is the work that they are doing on malaria research, because I found it fascinating, and I found it a bit different. Most of the people are producing applications, you know, like to go to these companies. Most of them are producing particular applications, bots, you know, some like chatbots for diagnosis, or, you know, like this kind of technologies they are doing. But this one, I found it very interesting when they talked about the research they are doing, and also how not just it's locally, but they really are connected, you know, so with different institutions, with like in Ghana, and also institutions abroad. So I felt that, okay, there's something really different here, and it's worth it to pursue that. And this is how I came to their work on malaria, and malaria research and developing AI technologies for malaria research in Ghana. And it's very understandable because malaria is one of the very, yes, if we see here the map, I mean, I'm just giving statistics because they look cool, when you give statistics, but I'm not really grounded in statistics, but it's important to see at least the general statistics that are out there. And malaria in Ghana, like the estimated cases of malaria in Ghana is 6.5 million, and this is a very high, number, like according to the number of population, according to the malaria cases that are worldwide, and also also like the comparative to what's there. Like, so example, like Ghana comes at the 14th. It's the country number 14 when it comes to malaria cases, and this is very high in the rank. I mean, all the 15 first ones are African countries, and Ghana is number 14 in that list. So it is a serious issue, and it is an issue that, as Africans, it's taken very seriously, and because it's taken very seriously because malaria, at some point when COVID happened, malaria kind of was sidelined, although that same year it killed a lot of people the same way COVID actually, like the numbers of mortality are very similar from malaria. And it affected children, under the age of 5, and also women who are pregnant, pregnant women. So these are the people who are really at risk of malaria fatality. So yes, so that's kind of the hookup. So I went with 2 main research questions. One, that's how do local and global context, values, and infrastructure shape the development and the deployment of AI technologies for biomedical research in Africa? And my second question was, in what ways do locally developed AI systems for biomedical research in Ghana challenge or reproduce global hierarchies of knowledge, expertise, and technological dependency? So I did like a quick scan to see what kind of AI technologies that are already there that for malaria. And there are AI technologies developed for diagnosis and lab automation. And this is like when using technologies such as deep learning models to read blood smears and also like kind of the microscopic images. So they're kind of automating those processes. And this is one of the very like classical examples of automating and AI technologies when it comes to malaria diagnosis, and also in surveillance, looking at like, the remote sensoring, weather forecast, human mobility, and also like the epidemiology data to predict host and seasonal outbreaks for different mosquito breeds. Vector monitoring and the etymology, which is also about how AI-powered cameras identify different types of mosquitoes, because there's a lot of types of mosquitoes, and different mosquitoes have different habits and have different intelligences. So they also, yes, and I like that because when the CEO, I remember the CEO of like of the Mino Health AI Labs, is like, he was telling me everything has intelligence, even the mosquito demonstrate intelligence, and this was very interesting, like to look at beyond our human-centered, ideas about technology and about especially about artificial technologies, artificial AI or AI, whatever. Okay, so that's it. And the other thing is, okay, there's also in drug discovery and modeling, where it's accelerating screening for anti-malaria candidates, so they're trying to, where we try to develop vaccines and therapeutics for malaria, but this kind of AI is still at the research level, and this is the AI I'm interested in anyway. So this is part of the automation that I'm interested in. And the other thing that's where AI is already there is on operational optimization, which is, like using data to distribute nets, to do indoor residual spraying, and also like to just allocating resource and efficiently, and also prioritizing high risk areas for model outputs. Yes, so it all started at the Mino Health AI Labs, and yes, so Mino Health AI Labs is a startup based in Accra, Ghana, founded in 2016, 2017 by Darlington Akobo, who is the CEO, and this is Darlington's picture. He is, yes, this is the picture that he had when he was elected, or was it called nominated, as one of the Forbes young under 30 Forbes under 30, yes, under 20 under 30, yes, 30 under 30, yes, exactly. So he was the one that got it in this year, yeah, one of the ones who got it this year, and that it shows how how he built his own visibility in the world, in the tech world, and actually he's also called one of the Ghanaian tech geniuses, so you can understand from that the hype and why it's very interesting in understanding AI technologies. So the mission, as the rhetorical mission, is that we hear in every startup, to democratize quality healthcare using AI, data analytics, and cloud computing. So the goal is to help healthcare facilities provide quality, affordable, and timely diagnosis, prognosis, and forecasts. The scope of their work, they cover both communicable and non-communicable diseases, including malaria, COVID, breast cancer, pneumonia, and all the other diseases. They started with a radiology or X-ray AI, kind of when you upload your images, your X-ray images, it gives you sort of, diagnosis or prognosis and tell you what's there and what's happening, and then you can take that report to the medical doctor, and then and then you have like the human eye on that. So that's how they started, but then they moved to more more advanced technology, I would say. And so here, as I said here, these key projects, and this is why it's interesting. So they have, I said, they have this initiative that was, it's called the Lace Wing Project, which is with the Imperial College London under the United Kingdom Research and Innovation. And they have this hub that's called Digital Innovation for Development in Africa. And at that time, they were working on something called a chip on a lab on a chip, which is a kind of a very futuristic idea to have, like to take like a little drop of fluid and do a lot of analysis out of it. And it's also something that, I mean, it's like a PCR, like the COVID test, but it's a bit different in sense of the COVID test is a bit, it needs a lot of resources and it needs a lot of testing, a lot of lab work. But this one, the lab is on the chip. So it actually is replacing bench laboratory work. And yes, and it's kind of, like, it reminds me, I don't know what's her name, the woman, Elizabeth Home, yes, yes, the one, the CEO of the company that was present, yes, 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 exactly. So it's kind of, like how those CEOs, their visions about technology and how they sell that technology. I mean, it's very interesting, but it's also backed up with, I mean, the Imperial College London, which is, it's in when you hear that name, already kind of assume that there's a well, sophisticated technology, but it's interesting how these technologies are backed up by this sort of initiatives, So it's government, it's kind of, like the way, the soft power of how those like governments like the UK government or the US, how they penetrate these platforms. So it's, yeah. So also one of the very interesting parts, or one of the very interesting things that they are developing right now, working on it, is Morami bioagent, which is the research focusing on using advanced AI to help develop new treatments for malaria and other diseases, not just malaria, but it is a bioagent. I mean, it is the sort of the generative AI for drug discovery, the ChatGPT for drug discovery, because it is built on large language models. And it is a bit of, I mean, if you see, like, I had a screenshot here for like it's how it's the same thing. You give a prompt and it gives you kind of the symptoms. It gives you analysis and it shows what kind of medical plan that you need to do. So it's kind of your personal doctor, your GP, but they still will tell you, like, this is AI can do a mistake, so please don't take it as a as a final report. Please go and seek help. But I mean, you give me a tool like that and you tell me to, and give me diagnosis and it tells me, well, you have this and you have that. Of course, like it's our way of now dealing with, like not going to the doctor, not immediately jumping to go to the doctor. I don't know, but this is, for me at least, I don't really like to go to doctors. So if I have that kind of technology, it just makes me feel good, but yeah, yeah. So this is what they are doing, and as I said, it's a different technology. So when I talked to Darlington, and he actually just picked his phone and told me, like, I was asking who can I talk to, like, beyond people here at the Amino Health AI Labs, especially people who are you doing collaboration with. So he directed me to the West Africa Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens, which is based at the University of Ghana. And he said, like, this is who they collaborate generally with, and also they collaborate also with the Imperial College in London, and they had together that joint project where they're doing the lab on chip. And now they're also having worked together on developing the Morami AI technology. So I went there. I met with one of the scientists, like one of the leading scientists in the project. I'm calling him Mark. Sorry, so just to disclaimer, this was before, long time ago, before Mark, before our own Mark. So the inspiration was a different inspiration, not the only Mark we know, but this is a different Mark. So yes, so I use that name as just to like to hide the identity, and yeah, for ethical reasons. So the aim, when I went there, my aim was to understand the scientists' aspirations and challenges in their perceptions of how and why AI is revolutionizing malaria research. So that was kind of my core, or it became my core focus, is to look at how scientists like aspire, like when they think about AI, what do they really imagine, and how do they imagine their work is developing and changing according to the AI technologies that they aspire to and imagine, and actually do a lot of work towards building these technologies. So I remember in one of the discussions we had, so this is the quote that I'm going to read quickly. He said parasites may exist in both blood and tissues, but standard blood scans fail to detect them. And a few malaria tests leads to false negative test results. When testing for malaria, there is a blood scan for the infected person. If humans were to go through the huge number of images generated for blood scans to detect malaria parasites, it would take a lot of time and they might make mistakes, especially if signs of infections are very subtle, which means the changes or the symptoms that indicated malaria infections are not always detectable. In this case, AI is important because it can analyze large data sets of annotated images to identify a malaria infection, even if the parasite is not immediately noticeable. So for AI to solve a problem, there has to be a problem, you know. So there has to be some sort of very challenging problem that AI needs to, resolve, and only AI technologies can resolve that problem. And this is very important to look at when we are kind of dealing with places where technosolutionism is really the core, in essence, the behind development. And yes, so in this case, the problem was that there's no the testing or the microscope will take a lot of time. The conventional test is taking a lot of time, and it needs a lot of expertise. And when you have cases where there's no particular symptoms, and like it's very hard to detect malaria, and then you have false negatives or false positives also, that can also happen. You have both false negative and false positives, and AI actually can do better than a trained microscopist who will get tired of looking at all those screens. And also, one of the things that I remember what he said is like, there's a lot of data that's generated, when you take like 200 smears, you decide, okay, there's malaria, but there's also like a lot of other smears, like a huge number of smears that or like generate a lot of data, and that data just goes away. And it's very important to use that, to find a way to collect that data, because this is how we train our technologies. So in the process of doing it in a conventional way, we lose a lot of data. That's basically what he was trying to say. And this is why, AI is very important for them. The second also thing that we talked about is what I call it the blood machine. And here he lost me. Like, there's a lot of things I didn't understand, and I was like asking very stupid questions. Please, could you explain this for me? Please explain that for me. But I think I like also how he tried his best to make it so simple for me to understand, these kind of technologies, how are they building them, what is interesting for them to do when we know. And what here in this code, what there are, he said that there are the machines that range the people who are being supervised. So when someone falls in a particular range, it means one has an active infection because their palatate count is higher, or their monocyte count is higher, or this is like what's called grouped as a complete blood count. So when they test it and they put it in this hematology machine, and it gives a different, it gives a particular reading, then those people have, we can say that they have infection or they don't have an infection. However, he said, like, those machines come already trained with different data from different populations, and they come and we use them here in Ghana, instead of having like a research or a study that's to be done on the Ghanaian population that would determine the normal values for somebody who is not sick and who is sick. And he explained it to me very nicely, and I believe him. It's only belief for me that yes, they are it's very different, you know, when you have a machine trained in India or machine trained in China or in Europe or in Ghana, you know, because it depends on the genetic makeups of the people. It depends on, I mean, and this is the whole idea behind precision medicine, right? So we want different but different data, so we can, you know, develop the technology, and the technology can actually accommodate, you know, everyone's own genetic makeup. And it's also the idea of like Africa is very diverse when it comes to genetic makeup. So it's always good to have to collect that data. It's very important, you know, and it's lucrative actually to collect genomic data from Africa, from the continent. So that was, for me, that was very interesting. I mean, he said, like, if we build the software and then we integrate the software in these machines, we can like build the software in Ghana and we integrate these machines in these machines, then we can really have useful value machines for collecting data and also for like giving the accurate readings on the ground, you know. So that was his argument. But then this brings us to the core issue. So AI is not just a code, right? AI solutions in malaria research, like automated microscopes, digital slides, mosquito surveillance camera, or wearable diagnostics, require a hardware ecosystem that are overwhelmingly produced outside Africa. So it's not just about the code, you know, it's not just about the algorithm, but it's about the medium, you know, the hardware. And this is always something very interesting because as much as we are praised for our, you know, for the revolution, the like our governments praise that Africa is catching up or Africa is leapfrogging or doing that. We are leapfrogging, but I mean, leapfrogging should not mean that we just focus on developing algorithms and leaving all the other industries that really ground us, you know, and make us compatible, competing like in the development of the technology. Because if you don't produce the microscope, you know, like, and you try to negotiate, you develop a software and then you try to negotiate with another company that produces the microscope to integrate your own software, that's already a challenge, you know, already a huge challenge. And as I said here, like these microscopes are manufactured in places like the US or Germany, Japan or China, but even when African labs create excellent AI algorithms, they often depend on these imported devices for data input or deployment. And the companies who are controlling, you know, the production of microscopes can simply say, we don't want to integrate your data, which meaning that they can easily refuse to integrate or license African developed AI plugins. So yeah, that means the current strength lies in of Africa. Really, it does lies in algorithmic research, but not in production. So African universities and labs, like we have, like in the Malaria University, we have University of Ghana, we have the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and also University of Stellenbosch. These are universities where are showing real strength in algorithm design for image recognition and prediction models, contextual adaptation, and they're also like doing it in low widthband, offline, or low-cost setups. And these are really locally relevant data sets, and you know, but because manufacturing ecosystems for optics, chips, circuit boards, and batteries is missing, you know, really missing in the whole equation. So local AI innovators remain at the prototype stage. Even when talking about 3D printing, which could theoretically localize device production, it's constrained by its reliance on high quality sensors, lenses and chips imported from abroad, you know. So back to the MinoHealth AI labs, and this is where we ask the question. So, okay, we developed this. Who is actually using? Who is using, or who is going to use the Morami bio agent? So, as I said, they're still at the training level, and they have these technical reports. I mean, they are available on their website. You can go and check them. They said they have generated 1,000 antibody targeting the malaria complex. This is it. I don't know how to read this complex even, but this is it. Using Morami bioagent. So, and they are working to move some of these novel antibodies from in silicate, yes, thank you, Sandra, to the validation or to the ex vivo, like taking it out of the computation model and bringing it to the lab. Basically, that's what they're saying. So that is the lab, or the animal studies are stepping towards real biological testing. You know, so having the product to be pre-clinical trial, which the testing on the animals, and then goes to clinical trials after validation. And I mean, this is where things get stagnant, you know, because in order to take a product, you know, they define the antibody, they define the sequences, but in order to take it, that's where they enter, you know, the global, you know, fight about like sequences being patent, you know, laws and regulations and companies, and the hegemony of a lot of international companies, big giant pharmaceutical companies, and I am still going to, like, it's still a project that's in progress, and it will be very interesting to see how are they going to negotiate these spaces, because this is really when things get stopped. I mean, even the WHO, the WHO initiative to produce the mRNA vaccines, they're actually now stuck at the preclinical trials. They have the vaccine, but they just can't take it to the clinical trials because Moderna patent that vaccines, and Moderna only allowed to develop a vaccine when there was COVID. After COVID, they will, you know, flag their patents, and this is why the project is stuck, you know. And this is the same that's I mean, I could imagine this is the same that's going to happen in this case. So, and this is why we see no evidence in public sources that the antibodies or the tools designed by Morami bioagent have been used on human malaria patients or in clinical trials, and no reports of deployment through health systems or public health programs. And this exactly like supports the idea of like, yes, we always stuck at the prototype and we don't go further than that. The other thing, or the other challenge is, for example, and here I'm bringing the example of, because Japan is really, when it comes to, you know, the scientific cooperation in Ghana, Japan is really, you know, like big in that. And here I'm just showing you how it's easy for such companies who are coming from abroad to really access the market because of the government. They immediately make these kind of agreements, and, you know, bilateral agreements and you know, cooperations, and then they bring these companies to come in and train their own models. They come with their technology that's already made, so they have the power of the hardware, and also they have the power of the software, you know. And they bring this like in this case, like this Sora Technologies, which is a Japanese company, it's bringing their own drones to train them, you know. And these drones are trained to spot, you know, like places where malaria, where the mosquitoes are breeding, and at the same time it sprays, it releases sprays, you know. So it has kind of, you know, like a multifunctional drone with very high-tech cameras And these are, and it's coming in. I mean, there are local companies who are trying to develop drones, but they are not going to get the blessings of the government as the one that's coming from Japan, and for many reasons. As I said, there's the International Cooperation Agency, the Japan International Cooperation Agency, which operates like heavily in Ghana. And we know like there's a long history of cooperation, which because of like, I mean, one of the outcomes of this cooperation is the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research, which is established in 1997. And I think it's because of that guy who died. I think he died in Ghana with yellow fever. Yes. So, yes, Noguchi, yes, the Japanese virologist. I mean, he was doing research and he died from yellow fever in Ghana. And they had this on his they're honoring his memory. Yeah. So yes, so now of like how we rethink that, and how could we as I mean, we have all those cases, but we need to kind of put them also in the context of more, like going further and to understand that in a more systematic way. And I think one of the things that I mean, the concept of new colonialism and the Kwame Nkrumah articulation, and I think it's also symbolic to read. It's just really like at the door, you don't need to go far away to look at the ideas, like what is happening currently and how it's really relevant to what Kwame Nkrumah said in 1965 in his book New Colonialism, The Last Stage of Imperialism. So the work, I mean, his work was kind of a response to the critique of Lenin's idea, which is a critique of Lenin's idea of imperialism and the final stage of capitalism, which is imperialism in case of Lenin. But Kwame Nkrumah came and said, no, there's new colonialism, which is the final stage of capitalism, and arguing that colonialism had evolved rather than it disappeared, after, like countries got their independence. So the economic dependency was the core, of the idea of new colonialism. So the essence of new colonialism is that the state which is subject to it is, in theory, independent. In reality, its economic systems and thus its political policy are directed from outside. And this is very clear when we look at the context of developing AI technologies in Ghana and in many places in the world. I would argue also like foreign aid as a tool of control. He argued that the so-called development aid often came with strings attached, reinforcing dependency instead of autonomy. And that's the case, in most of these in these initiatives, that foreign aid comes in different in disguise. It could come in what is called like academic corporations. It still can find a way to. It's a sort of soft power that penetrates these different spaces, and it's in research, in technology development, in all in different guys. And he talked also about the cultural and the ideological domination, which the room also highlighted how education, media, and ideology perpetuate Western dominance by shaping minds and values in ways that favor external control. And this is very prominent because there's a lot of young Ghanaians who were trained by the Japanese development corporation. They got scholarships, they went and they were trained in Japan, and they came back. And they're always kind of preaching the gospel of, we need the technology from Japan, because we need that kind of advanced technology. We need to have cooperation. And it's very interesting how these things, how I mean, this is part of the idea of how education is really, shaping the minds of the younger generations who actually instead aspire to particular models of development rather than kind of, looking at development from within. But of course, he didn't leave us hanging like that. Kwame Nkrumah gave us how we can regionally unite and defend, our status. So we have to, like he talked about Pan-Africanism, which is unity among African nations. Economic self-reliance is very important, and this is through industrialization and control of natural resources, political solidarity, and the creation of continental institutions, which is something he envisioned, something like the AU. I mean, with all the problematic, stance of AU, but that's what his vision was at that time. Yes, so the relevance of, as I said, of Nkrumah's articulations today is like Africa's dependence on foreign technologies such as AI tools or digital infrastructure, the extractive relationship in resource industries, like mineral, it's still going on, like even if they tell us that this is the new minerals are the data, but still there's also a lot of, I mean, if you look at the bigger pictures, still a lot of extraction happening on the ground. I mean, we can see DRC to the DRC, Ghana, there's still like there's a South Africa. There's a lot of extractivism going on for rare earth, and also for like the cobalt and coltan and all these minerals that are the core of AI technologies. That's how AI technologies actually can be mediated. So the extractivism is still, it's from the data, but at the same time, it's the minerals and the oil is still continuing. It didn't stop. Debt, dependency, and external dictated economic policies, unequal trade, and global value chains that limit local development, as I showed, like today, like AI technology companies that are locally developing technologies face a lot of hurdles compared to companies that are coming like outside of the continent. So Nkrumah foresaw the structure of global inequality that persists under globalization, and what now they call it, like some people call it, digital new colonization or data colonization or algorithmic colonization. They all kind of refer to the same old story. So the path, we also, it's not just being pessimistic, but also like trying to find a path forward. How are we going to move forward? So I have some suggestions, which is, kind of also building on what, to our discussion today in the morning. What are we giving to the community back? We identify the problems, we kind of do the theory and do that work, but how can we kind of translate that work to actions? And this is very important now, in this time. So Africa can break the cycle. I believe that Africa can break the cycle, but it requires building bridges between AI research and also light manufacturing, and thinking politically about technological autonomy. Like we need also it's not just like bridging manufacturing and AI research or the software with the hardware, but we also need that political goodwill, and try and advocate and protest, actually, like the protests that are happening today. One of them is what they call Gen Z protests that are going around in the world, and I think one of them is they are really challenging these kind of structures, So as I said, Africa AI plus hardware startups partnerships, which encourage collaboration between local AI labs and African electronics or med tech startups. Open source modular designs, develop open source hardware such as digital microscopes. There should be like an open source where companies can make use of the formulations without getting into trouble of, like property, intellectual property rights, and actually be protected also, like we should have the institution that protect these companies. AI autonomy in healthcare and health data, keeping African data sets within Africa jurisdictions. This is very important, because a company like Sora will take the data and will leave, and then that data that's produced in Africa by Africans, there's no access for any local production to this data. So this is why it's very important that data has to remain in the jurisdictions of Africa. Then university industry incubators. So institutions such as the University of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah University could host and incubate and connect students and engineers to medical device fabrication hubs. And this is the role that university plays should, be very, very crucial and be very key, and be key in forming such kind of partnerships, transformative partnerships. So conclusion, this is more than a technical issue. It's an epistemological and political one. AI, especially in health, is being shaped by industrial ecosystems that decide whose knowledge counts. If Africa can't participate in production, then even its intelligence gets treated as supplementary, not autonomous. But by integrating AI innovation with hardware localization, Africa could move from being a test site to a co-creator of global health technology. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you, Azza. I'm going to go straight to ask colleagues questions, because we don't have
sorry, it took a lot of time.
Several questions at once.
Okay.
And if you can write, and if colleagues can be straight with their questions and decide whether it's a question or comment.
Yeah.
I remember being at UNISA that I was told to UNISA that people should remember that they shouldn't take the opportunity of a question to present their abstract. So just go straight to your question and be generous to the colleague. So we're going to start with Tina. I have the names.
Preventing hardware.
Development.
Okay.
At universities.
Okay.
Amina?
Thank you so much. I have so many questions, but I'll keep it to one. Could you expand a little bit on the relationship between the researchers at the university and the people in the startup? Because, yeah, one is for profit, you're making a lot more money. On the other hand, are the startups sort of invisibilizing the work that is being done at the university? But just, yeah, maybe more about the relationship.
Invisibilizing the work.
That is,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Thank you. And ask one question. You talked about the global extractivism, the data extractivism, and the raw material extractivism. It is interesting, but what is the policy innovation proposal you have about that?
Kwasi?
Thank you. My issue has to do with.
I think she's still right.
Yes, sorry. Just let me write.
Just to make sure she responds to everyone.
Yeah, sorry.
The first issue has to do with why did you limit yourself to just that company? You check to find if there are others in the AI and the health sector doing other things. In relation to that, why do you only speak to one person or two people? Then the second one is issue on ethics. What are some of the ethical issues that you observe with your study?
Ethical. issues.
Really?
Mhm.
My question actually follows up on
Okay.
that question. And I wondered how much power is the state willing to deploy towards mitigating the issues that you outlined.
Mhm.
I'm thinking specifically about the AI autonomy, the health, that sort of things, and the things that those are things that I think possibly in legislation. I'm just wondering in the case of
Mhm.
what the state has deployed in terms of the exercise of its own power.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Mm.
Minga. Okay, I'm writing it down.
Yes.
If you could just write them down,
Yeah.
then I'll close once I have all. So I have Minga. Yes, I'm seeing your hands, every person.
Mm.
I'm not ignoring any of you.
I think I'm doing a follow-up on
Okay.
Tina's question, very crucial.
Okay.
Because if you look at AI or malaria, Ghana is well, I would say, equipped in how to deal with AI since long time. Okay. But my question is, because you say that, our machine are already these Western AI developer company, they have their machine already safe for that. But I would like to also be cautious a little bit to how we romanticize AI.
How we what?
Romanticize.
Romanticize.
Like,
Okay.
AI is tool for it's a tool that can help us because for AI to exist, we need to have people who can actually program it. But what is it that is stopping, and what is the role first of also university and institution? Was there a gap in funding, or what is the issue there? I think it's a follow-up on Tina's question.
Mm.
Thank you, Sandra.
Actually, mine is for this participant.
Oh, she left. Okay.
Yeah, she asked what are the socio-economic factors that affect malaria-related mortality? Can AI assist with this?
Socioeconomic factors
Yeah.
affecting
Malaria.
malaria mortality. Okay.
It can be
Yeah, I can assist.
About issues of surveillance. Is
Surveillance.
Yeah.
Okay.
AI tech being used to further surveillance in the name of disease prevention.
Yes.
And
Yes.
now my
That's yes. That's easy. Huh?
prevention.
Okay.
It's always.
That's yours now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's always in case of
Uh-huh.
prevent
Yes.
instead of heal.
Prevention better than cure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I remember my grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
my grandparents told me, and I'm sure that it's also true for all the country reports.
Mm-hmm.
When before independence, when Poland living in New, they used to kill all the disease, all the mosquito, and they use the plant and they kill all the disease with improvisations.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no mosquito. After independence, they left
Mosquito state.
mosquito and after malaria.
Mm.
And they can send us medicine
Mm.
and
Nets.
all
Yes.
this kind. It's
Yeah.
like industry for the
Yes.
economic. Yeah. So
Yeah.
then my question is, if AI can help to prevent
Mm.
and copying this thing, this kind of technologies to kill all mosquito in the city.
Yeah, it's a
Thank
all
you.
mosquitoes.
I'm
Okay,
going to
thank
have
you.
two last questions, and then you
Great.
can close with your response.
Okay.
Ugo, Chi.
Mhm.
Ugo, Chi.
So I'll start the lighter note. I just want to saw that Nigeria is the
Highest, yes, when it comes to malaria.
consider us.
Why I didn't consider Nigeria?
Yes. Let's go to the questions.
Yes, Nigeria. Why not? Yeah.
Have this that the type of malaria we have, the drugs we can take. So
Mm.
your research I don't know if you are looking at some of the issues about how we use these malaria drugs, because they say because we take it all the time, our body has become so it doesn't work again. I don't know if your research is looking at it in that ethical use of malaria drugs.
Okay.
Curious to hear that, but he doesn't know. Last question.
Last question. Why I have
Exactly.
12? Yeah.
So you don't have to respond.
No. Yes. No. But they're all interesting. Interesting questions. Yeah.
You say that one of the aspects was bemoaning the issue of loss of data because of lack of some of these AI. And my question was, what are the ethical implications of not using that data? If they have a data, I think it's linked with the surveillance.
Okay.
What further do they do with that data? If we have AI and we can gather all this data, what are the issues there? And then the second one was what is the place of indigenous knowledge in dealing with malaria and some of these tools? Because you said they were very much into foreign, like Japan and AI equipment. But malaria is mostly now solved with herbal medicine.
Yes.
Because people who go to the hospital get tested, given the medicine, but they will still use it. So what's the expert knowledge on how to integrate some of these indigenous knowledge, ideas or whatever in data?
That actually can be a recommendation for the technology if they want to train it. If they want to train it further, decolonize, bringing indigenous knowledge. Yeah, but for now, that's not even on the table. Yes, in the conversation. Yeah.
Thank you.
So should I respond?
Yes, the ones you can respond to.
Yes.
The ones you have quick, short answers.
Yes.
And then the others you can say, I'm available for coffee.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, I mean all the questions that are talking about the ethics and the ethical implications, and especially when the most obvious ones are data, right? And so like nicely surprisingly, Ghana does have a very, very elaborate document when it comes to data health data sharing. But then the question is to what extent that is actually translated in the practice. I think that's where that's where the hurdle is, and that's where we need actually research. I would say that this is like an admit, and for very genuine reasons, that there's a lot of places that I didn't touch yet. I mean, it was a very short field work, and I am writing projects, and proposals now to go and have more deeper elaboration. For many of your questions that you're asking here, actually, these are all questions that could be done for further research. And for example, for UXL, like what is, we are trying to grapple with that question. So we also don't want to be, we are complicit, but we don't want to be complicit, right? The fact that I'm carrying a mobile phone, like smart mobile phone, I'm already complicit in what's happening in DRC, what's happening in, in different places. So how can we, first of all, critique ourselves, like we are carrying mobile phones, that we know that there's a lot of blood that's on it, and how are we going to reconcile between this and like being in the context, suffering from it, and at the same time being complicit in it, right? So it's very important to look at, in terms of policies and in terms of praxis, how could we really reach that? For the relationship between the research, universities, and the startups. Well, these startups also kind of, you can help me with Rwanda. I don't know the case of Rwanda, but at least what they claim, that they are democratizing healthcare, so they're there for a good cause, regardless of, we just believe. There's no other ways to know. We just believe their word, that they are there for a good cause. But I agree with you. I mean, let's unpack the different, also if we want to unpack the different interests, why even scientists at the university will collaborate with a startup, you know, why is that very important? And I think there's different levels of engagement. Like, first of all, those we are talking about scientists who are pursuing and interested in, you know, in innovation generally. That's their passion, you know, to innovate, to bring something new on the table, you know, and that's how science is driven. You know, there's innovation, there's passion about what they're doing. They are interested in exploring different, you know, opportunities, new ideas, being big names in a particular field. You know, this is, if you want to go to AI and malaria research, that's the person, they become the gatekeepers of knowledge. You know, like it's different kind of interests that are woven, you know, into these collaborations. And I think I don't know about I mean, I can't say much about invisibilizing or visibilizing. I mean, but I guess I mean, visibility and invisibility has also their own channels, if I understood your question correctly, but we can talk further about that, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was curious about profits versus.
Yeah. I mean, the profit in this case is like, the profit will come when you develop a technology-full product, you know, it's out there. I mean, I'm what they depend now is really on funding, you know. So they get funding, they don't sell a product, but they are getting funding, and this is where they profitize, I guess, you know, like this is where they get the money, they get the collaboration, they're having all those philanthropists pouring money into that company. I mean, now they have a big funding from Bill Gates, you know, and that's also says a lot about you know, what's going on and how the soft power penetrates. I mean, it's going to be very interesting also to see when funding is cut from them, because, you know, like the formulary, especially in Ghana, there was like they were depending on the initiatives called the presidential initiative. They used the US presidential initiative that's going through the US aid, but Trump came and cut that aid. Now that funding is not there anymore. I mean, already it's felt, you know, like a lot of cases are reported where women go to hospital and they don't get the medication because the medication is not there anymore. You know, they can't have access to drugs. They can't have nets. You know, the distribution of nets is not as it used to be. So we are yet to see what the cuts of the US aid having, but the US aid was funding like a big chunk of malaria research in Ghana. Yeah. So yes, Sandra, thank you for the very interesting, I mean, that's be interesting to look at the historical epidemiology, you know, like our own epidemiology when it comes to dealing with malaria. And I like that when you said, I think malaria came, they were for some reason, when the colonizers were there, they were spraying everything, and malaria was not an issue at that time, but then it became an issue. And I think, I mean, one of the very core projects of segregation, because we also need to look at one of the core projects of segregation is to segregate people according to health, you know. So they actually built their own, you know, like apartheid, you know, sections of the cities. You know, if you look at colonial cities, apartheid was built also in sense of like preventing the ruling class from the disease that are brought by the natives, you know. And if you go through the records, like the historical records, this is so blunt and clear. I mean, there's amazing records here about Cape Town and how the segregation was also built on, you know, ideas of health, you know. So how could we prevent ourselves from getting disease, you know? And this is why in the record you will say, okay, this place was free of malaria, but were they spraying everywhere? You know, that's the question. There are places, you know, in Sudan, it was called the native lodge areas, you know, and these areas were deprived completely from any kind of routine healthcare measurements, you know, and people were packed, you know, natives were packed, or the so-called natives were packed in these areas, while the Victoria district, whatever district we had, you know, these were very like greenery, clean, you know, like all whatever can protect them from extracting diseases. Yeah, so it's very interesting to look at that, but that's a different. Nigeria, please invite me. I would be very happy to come and do research in Nigeria. Why not? To expand, yes, to expand that. I know like Nigeria is like #1 when it comes to, I mean, I was asking myself, is it really because of the, I mean, I know like there's a lot of resistance when it comes to like vaccines. And I mean, that is part of mosquitoes being smart, yeah. Being intelligent, which they resist. They know how to train and resist vaccines, you know. So it's an interesting case, Nigeria, and I hope like one day we can expand and have a project there. Be cool. There's a lot of, yes, I think so. I did. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Everybody's question answered.
No, I didn't answer. No. Who did I didn't answer.
What's preventing the development of hardware
hardware in technology? No, like this. That's not actually. It's not preventing. It's preventing when it comes to upscaling. You know, the university themselves. You know, they have a lot of projects. If you go and see what they're doing in university, it's fascinating. You know, they do have. I mean, we have who developed the ventilator. Yes, but then that ventilator, you know, Babson, exactly. So when it comes to mass production, you know, and accepting that, you know, and regulating that, that's where the hurdles happen, you know. Yes, but there is, of course, there is a lot of invention that is happening and a lot of innovation, you know. But to take it further, that's the problem. That's وقف حمار الشيخ عند العقبة. شكرا.
Okay. Right, so are we not having job this Thursday actually?
Okay, yes.
I think we will send out an announcement to be speaking on Thursday because job for collaboration reasons and not just enter a country without a visa. So yeah, so we but I think we have other colleagues here. I don't know when we schedule Babson. But it might be Babson speaking on Thursday this week. Yes, I think on Thursday it will be Babson, but we'll confirm that. Thank you, colleagues, and thank you, Azza, you know, for the generosity of presenting your work, you know, to us and also for colleagues for engaging you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Good week.